Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 6th meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Please take note of all the exits around the room, and also forgive us up here if we're a little rusty. It's been since September that we've met in person, so but it's nice to see everybody back again. Please join me as we salute the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda tonight is a new public hearing for Hyde Park Town Center North. This is building number 2, known to locals as the former Grand Union. Ms. Leibold, it's good to see you in person again,
Good
too.
evening. Thank you.
It's been a while.
Said I feel like I'm watching a movie and meeting all the actors. It really does feel that way.
If only.
This project has been under some discussion thus far, but tonight we're here to hear from the public as well, so making a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Kelly, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'll do a little bit of an overview just because this is a public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can you pull that mic a little bit closer?
Better?
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. This property is 14.43 acres. I think everyone knows where it is. Hold on, sorry, oh boy. To try to get back to this is all new for me.
I was going to say, while I'm here, let me interject that I want to thank the town board for providing this new resource for us. This is supposed to, I believe, you can, for the camera purposes, they don't have to just shoot the camera, they can actually call it up on the camera at the same time?
It will be once Optimum and PCA set it up.
Okay, that's where we're going.
Getting there, yes.
Soon.
That's where we're going.
We're not there yet.
Good. So surprisingly, 14.43 acres. As everyone knows, there's 5 buildings. I've been before this board for many years on 5 of these buildings. 4 had received approval from this board for improvements. 3 were improved. Excuse me. The one building that is, well, the 2 buildings that are not yet improved is Feeds Plus, which is building number 3, and what I call the old Amish Market, which is building number 2. And we're here tonight to discuss building number 2, which is the Amish Market. The site is in the PW2 zone. We originally thought it was in the PW3, but this property is very confusing. The front portion is in PW1, the back portion is in PW2. There are several existing egress-ingress points. None of those are going to be changed as part of this application. Water service is by a master meter pit, Dutchess County Water and Wastewater. There was a lateral that was brought in for this building, but has not yet been connected to this building. Sewer is through private septic system, which would be under the authority of Dutchess County Department of Health. We're proposing to convert this building to office space with approximately 5 to 6 employees. Around every 2 months, there is training at this site, which would be around 25 people for some duration throughout the day. Primarily, the application involves the architecture of the building, although there are some site improvements. The site improvements are generally the addition of a new dumpster, which is going to be located in this area. The removal of the wonderful blue mansard roof.
It's gray
Or
now.
awning. Yep,
Gray.
gray. Yes, I think that was
Or I said
repainted.
gray.
The addition in this this sidewalk is 11 feet in the front, so the addition of a planter along the south side of the building to break up the architecture of the building. And we are proposing to remove the existing loading dock that's in the back and just replace it in kind. So that's really the majority of the site improvements. I'm leaving out the water and the wastewater because those are sort of obvious improvements. Last month, we were before this board and we received some initial comments. I think I'm going to open this up twice, Cynthia, so I'm sorry. We received some initial comments on the architecture that we had presented, and if you recall, it was somewhat of a very flat building that was single-colored. Even though we were adding some texture and so forth, it wasn't illustrating quite well on the elevations. So the comments that we had received, and I'll just talk about how we've made some changes to those, first was the colors. And there were comments about modifying the building so it looked more like teak wood and the addition of teak wood on the site. So what we did is all of the hardy that was originally the same color as the building, the gray, we modified the color. And by the way, all these colors and so forth are on the elevation. So we modified those colors to look like teak, but it's still a hardy board cement product. The awnings, the question was, what is the awning? The awning is a canvas material, which is identical to the ones that are on Mavis tire. So they'll be the same, except this is gray. We were asked to kind of break up the southern portion of the building over here, and we talked a lot about adding this landscape planter. So we did do that. We are proposing that. We did show arborvitae. Not sure if those are desirable by the town, but I'm sure we can talk about that, and whether they're salt tolerant. There was the discussion of adding some lighting here that could really accent those plants and the plantings and break up the wall. So there's 5 wall packs that were added here that are night sky compliant that would face downward. Expand the dental cap. So if you recall, this dental cap didn't extend over this side of the building, and that's been expanded and expanded size-wise. So they made it more pronounced on the elevation throughout the whole rooftop. There was the question about what the break is here, and this is 4 feet, believe it or not, between those 2 areas. Adds the industrial signage, and we talked a lot about the walkway over the Hudson, which is on Washington Street. When you look up, it's that metal. So we showed, it just says for purposes of this meeting, proposed tenant. But of course, once the tenant is identified, we can show the actual signage, and if we have to do an amended site plan approval, we can do that. Those are the changes that we made that we talked about last week. The additional comments that I had received, just so I can address those, was the fire department. They wanted to make sure the building was going to be sprinklered and alarmed, which it is. They wanted us to move the fire department connection closer to the front of the building, which is very, very challenging, so we need to keep it at the same location. They wanted us to add signage, which of course we will, where the fire department connection is, and a Knox box, which of course we will. County planning had some comments relative to lighting, which I think we addressed, with respect to zoning, which I think has been previously addressed, and then indicated that it was a matter of local concern. So I think that those are all the comments that we had received to date. We are hoping to
Move
advance this
forward.
forward, yes, which you knew I was going to say that. Of course, I think everyone is aware of who the tenant is, and we are trying to get the lease finalized so that we can start the construction of the project.
I don't think we publicly mentioned the tenant, but it is listed in your materials. just
Yes,
so
I
you
saw
know.
that. It was accidentally listed, but
So-
so it's in there.
If anybody wants to look at those.
Yes, they can see who it
So,
is.
at any rate, I also want to compliment you on your response, that your written response. You, I think, were very thorough with all the comments we have from our consultants as well.
Thank you.
So let me just start with our consultants. Ms. Franson?
Good evening. So a couple of follow-up items that have been discussed with some of the planning board members. There's a walkway that is shown on the north side of the building, and then there's a dumpster location. And a question was raised whether that dumpster could go back where the renovated area is to the south, and that area could still be dedicated to a walkway without being, without that conflict being there between the dumpster and then, a garbage truck coming and getting it, and et cetera. So that was one area. The sign so I think with the wording there, it looked kind of small, and I think because that's such a large blank face, and it is kind of terminating a vista as you come into the shopping center, I think there was a desire to put something in that sculpture or something still to break up that wall area if possible. The walkway connections, based on the prior plan that was approved, just want to make sure that whatever was shown as crosswalks, et cetera, that those are still put in, because they weren't necessarily shown. So we just need to make sure that if there were some improvements, especially with regard to walkway striping, et cetera, that they be included. But from my perspective, the one area in particular was, can we move the dumpster and then have more of a, a proper sidewalk, crosswalk, between 2 and 3? Thank you.
First, I'll just say that the location of the dumpster does look tight to all of us. We're the ones who brought
great.
that up.
Yep.
Because it's a tight squeeze back there. Then number 2, for Bonnie, the response, let's see, I'm not even sure what page it's on. But there's a response from Kelly who's pointing out that that crosswalk will not be installed.
Correct.
I'm going to raise that issue myself because if it was approved beforehand and we require walkways between all uses on a site, are you saying that you're not going to do a crossover to the west as well, or it's just going to be the one that connects to number 3?
The reason why this crosswalk and sidewalk is not intended to be installed is because this dumpster is actually in the way. There is a door here. And I think the tenant would like to be able to access that door as just a secondary area if they were bringing materials or equipment and so forth in. So they were anticipating.
Pedestrian
That's a
conflicts with
drive-through,
drive-through,
yeah,
okay. But you are going to put in the one that goes across, so then someone could walk through over to Building 3? One that heads
Sorry,
north? There's
this
one that heads north?
This one right here?
Yes.
Yes, yep, that'll be connected.
And you are going to put in the one over, heads west, so people who park can come into the
Correct.
location?
Yeah,
Okay.
these were not installed, these two.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Anything else?
So just to get back to the dumpster, so Kelly, it sounded like, I know there's a door back there and you wanted to get access to it, did you say?
Yes.
So, but if the dumpster's there, isn't it blocking the door?
Yeah, I was agreeing with you to move it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I lost
That's what
you.
I was saying. Yeah, I'm totally agreeing
I
with
lost you.
removing it.
Hello.
Yes, yes,
It's,
yes.
the
Thank
door
you.
that's there is what we used to call, it's now a person door,
Yeah,
just for people to go in and out, as you said, a secondary entrance.
yes,
So-
yeah, correct.
Thank you, Bonnie. Mr.
And so I
Zatara?
think what we're, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh.
We're talking about moving it over here. And I'm sure that Pete's going to talk about our drainage that we are proposing, and we'll make sure that it's out of the way.
Speaking of that, yeah, there's not many engineering items on this project. We had talked before about the roof leader drainage, about how there's currently a problem in the back of the building. So it looks like on the current plan, I know at one point we had talked about maybe taking, the roof and piping it inside, but it appears that you're gonna let, the leaders go where they are now and take and bring the drainage around the back of the building to the south side of the building, where Joe is showing a like a riprap swale, and then there's an outlet pipe out of that swale that goes to a dry well that I asked them to put in just so before the storm drainage enters the on-site catch basin system, that before it gets to the DOT system, that we do something to try to infiltrate as much as like possible. So that's on there. I just looking at the plan quick, I have a couple things that I'll email, to Joe, because I'm going away. So I'll shoot a quick email to
Okay.
everybody with just a couple thoughts I have.
Okay.
And so the only other thing was, though, I did see Kelly in the front, Joe's got on here, proposed roof leader to planter.
Yeah, I don't think that will work. I think, yeah, I think it's
I'm
just
a little
gonna
concerned that we're gonna
blow
flood it.
out. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
just going to blow out. We had a
So-
similar situation.
So maybe
south
you
of
could
here.
talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand
Agree.
about trying to get them some water, but that may be a little,
Yeah, it's too much.
That may be
Yeah.
a little too much, so.
The roof does pitch to the back, so predominantly most
Yeah.
of the water will go to the
Right.
back, but I agree.
so you
Yeah.
can talk to Joe on that,
Yep,
so.
I'll take care of it.
so-
Okay.
And that was it, really. There's really not many other, so you're into, the health department,
Yes.
you're proposing a new septic system, you've got the application into them, and so
They're
they're
actually going to
reviewing
do
it.
some deep tests, I think, on Friday.
So, that was it.
I happened
me.
to speak with Mr. Teed about something else, and he brought this up and said that actually it's going positively, just so
Yes.
everybody knows.
Yep.
I mean, it's not a huge septic system that they're installing. It's
No.
No.
a 1,000-gallon tank.
It's very small.
So, but before we leave that topic, because I was a little confused as well, the 2 liters are in the back, the rear, the east side, the rear. The note says redirect the roof leaders to run south and drain to new storm drain. The storm drain is that riprap swale,
Yes.
et cetera. But That's all on SP1 sheet, but on EX1, isn't there a rock outcrop where you want to do the dry well? It's labeled as a circle right now?
No, the dry well is located in the front on just a little south of the front corner of the building.
Yeah, I thought it
Right,
was
Kelly?
right here. I thought it was right here.
But
I
there
may
is,
have it wrong.
but you're right, Michael, there is a rock outcrop. I don't really know where that is in relation to where Joe's proposing the stone.
The rock outcrop is here. Is that what you're talking about, that big rock outcrop?
Yeah, and there's one that's shown a little smaller, right to the right of that even. I guess it's like two humps.
Right here.
And where the smaller, no, further to the east, I'm sorry, what it's showing is, I think that's where your riprap swale is, that there's a small rock outcrop
He
there.
wants to put the riprap swale right here.
Well, I'll just mention that in my email. I'll
Okay.
just say that's just something, to look at.
Okay.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Ms. Moss?
Oh, we gotta get her at the table.
Yeah, we need Just a couple things,
Yeah, we
Kelly.
don't need to lose weight.
The
Make more room.
occupancy load that I had asked you about, you replied by 125 will be the occupancy that,
150.
150? That the entire use is classified as office and that that's what you were working on, but yet you're requesting the planning board to relax the parking standards based on this particular tenant. I hope the board will somehow accommodate a future tenant that could come in for the space to be entirely office, not just office and storage or equipment or whatever else is going to be in the building. I think there will need to be some kind of accommodation or specification that if the tenant changes and the entire building is used as office, that it'll have to come back to the board. Another thing was, maybe I misunderstood it, but it seemed that one of the drawings, the windows in the front are being replaced
Yes,
by what?
new windows.
Okay,
Yep.
because it looked like they were aluminum panels that were going in the windows.
I said that because he colored them that way, and I said it looks like they're.
It
yeah,
looks
it's-
exactly
okay,
like that.
Sorry, yeah, that's on the elevation.
Okay. And then the third thing is that there's snow equipment containers that are taking up parking spaces now, and attachments for plows and things that are in parking spaces. I'm hoping that
They should be
the
leaving.
owner can find a more
Yeah.
permanent accommodation for those.
Okay.
Those are the only comments I had.
Those are all great comments. A couple of us had the same ones. Thank you, Tad. Ms. Polidoro?
Hi, so from a legal perspective,
That's why I waited, I was calling on Tad first, then you, because to figure out how to do this with the occupancy.
hi, everyone.
There's a will, there's a way.
So, this is a type 2 action. It was classified back in February, and as Kelly noted, the county has responded and said matter of local concern with a few comments on lighting. But I just wanted to note that the zoning table on the first page, I think you carried over the old information from the old district, and so that should be updated because the scale is gone, and the parking is going to be different for this use. I think you have it marked as retail, and now it's going to be office slash.
It's been changed already.
Okay.
However, Building 5, which is Emergency 1, is now labeled as business or professional offices, and they have the exact same number of 6 employees plus 25 for training, which I don't think
Oh, they
happens
put-
there.
They put the
It just
table
got-
wrong.
It just got,
Yeah, fix the table.
fix the
Okay.
table, it just got moved down.
And that's it for me.
Is there a way that we can make a note or do something so that there would be a requirement if the use changes, or not changes, because it's office, if it becomes an expanded use? How would we handle the reduced parking that they're
So,
requesting?
one of the things we talked about, my understanding is that this is a long-term lease, but.
It's our understanding.
Things change and tenants do sometimes break their leases. You could condition your approval, if there was a basis to do so, on some kind of threshold for occupancy of the building. So for instance, if there's only enough parking to accommodate a maximum of 50 people at any time based on the numbers, we could say this site plan is based on use of the building by no more than 50 or 60, whatever the numbers support, and that any intensification of the use would require, an additional site plan review. So we can deal with that down the road, so they couldn't just suddenly put in a 300-person, dance school or something without coming back to the planning board.
I don't think they'd want to do that either. We know the owners, and they're not going to want to have that place too crowded, but we just want to make sure we take precautions. So that
Yeah,
this
no,
can be
you do
addressed.
they wouldn't
you
use
do
those
have the
bathrooms.
tools to do that, so long as the numbers support that.
So the
that's why-
numbers, for our parking, they're not really requirements, as we all recall up here.
They're
They're
waivable.
guidelines based on the use and the square footage of the site. The planning board is allowed to make a determination to reduce that, whether shared parking in particular cases like this, we want to. But the size of the building and the office use would require 120 spaces, which is not going to be needed.
Correct.
I believe that they're requesting 79, so a reduction down from 120 of 41. Just to make that point.
So a little more than half of what would otherwise be required.
Yep. So, because this would be as though the whole building was occupied by 150 people. That's not going to happen because there's going to be a lot of equipment in here that's required to be located in this site. And it's, as far as I know, very sensitive equipment that's locked up with lots of security. So I don't see them converting this anytime soon to daycare, et cetera, but we should still make note because we plan for the future.
Right,
The
I think we
septic
can come
would
up with a
limit that.
number.
The
Right, and the
septic would
septic.
The
definitely
may
septic
limit
would
also.
limit that.
Yes?
Could we just, because of the representations of the applicant, I think it's 25 plus 6, right?
Correct.
The 31, could we just say, that's the expectation, that's the use that they're proposing, and, cap it at
Anything greater.
35? And then anything beyond that has to come back to the planning board, or some reasonable number based
Remember,
on
this is
those
shared parking, so it's
representations.
difficult to say these 25 are allocated just to here because.
Right.
In
But I'm thinking
addition,
more about the overall, what's allowed, the building-wise.
knowing the use, even though it's not been identified, my knowledge of the use is that the training sessions are held in the early evenings,
Yes.
basically when everybody else in the plaza isn't as busy because the barber shop closes, et cetera. So I don't think there'll be a lot of conflict there. Again, based on the specific tenant, that's what we have to sort of keep pointing out. So, but yeah, there's a way we can do all that.
Yeah, we can back into 79 spaces if that's what's being provided. and
Well,
come up with-
it's just 31. 79 is what would be
Oh,
required.
31 or 40?
They're asking for 31?
Well, there's 25 for training, plus 5 to 6 employees.
Sure.
So we said 31, so it's safe to say 35 is a reasonable, we would certainly agree with that approach. I think that's a
I
reasonable
mean,
approach.
we could probably assume some people would double up in cars and maybe, but yes, we'll come up with
Yes,
35.
and the 25 is infrequent.
And there are husbands and wives in that training, I can assure you. I've been in it myself. So let me start, I can do this again. I can start from my left. I've been doing Brady Bunch squares for so long.
Oh,
Ms.
do you need
Weiser.
this?
Thanks, Kelly. Cynthia, can you get me to the page where?
I just don't know where to click.
It's right there. It's that one.
Yeah, we can't see. Thank you, Cynthia.
My eyes are too.
I can barely see.
It's the one to the right. There it is.
I want the, where's the list? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay,
I think I need long distance glasses now, too. It
so,
seems small to me up there.
okay, change the mood here. So I am sorry to say that I am profoundly disappointed in the lack of effort put into the revised Town Center North elevation. This board submitted a number of examples that we hoped would inspire your architect, sorry, now I can't breathe, to design a building worthy of the important place this structure will occupy in this town. As noted in the last meeting, because of its location, this building is poised to be a major focal point of the town. With very little augmentation of the existing building, this could stand out to be quite a handsome, even striking centerpiece for Town Center North. I'll point to the examples that Rob will provide and to draw attention to the ones that Bonnie provided before. So in the matter of this elevation, it wasn't just adding teak, it's adding an interesting shape to the building. So we don't have a bunch of rectangles. And I can just scroll down.
Yeah, you just roll it.
Scroll, I need to, what's wrong with me? Oh, there we go. Another thing that Bonnie brought up was this craftsman style. Again, with very little effort, that addition to the rooftop could make it a very handsome building. I hear some people, some people are saying anything will be an improvement over what is currently there. Given the blighted disaster that exists now, the sentiment sets the bar very, very low. We have been working quite hard to improve the quality and the look of the buildings going up in Hyde Park. The last thing we need, let me go to that. The last thing we need is a building that is as soulless as a DMV in a suburban strip mall. The people of Hyde Park deserve better than that. So as you can see here, we photoshopped the new elevation into the existing site, and it is as soulless as a DMV in a suburban strip mall. So I just want people to spend a little time and take a look at what we'd be getting with no more imagination being put into this building. And that's mine.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Waters?
Well, where do I start? I second everything that Ann has said, and I just have a real problem with it. We call it the town, Hyde Park Town Center North, and it's town center. This building is the diamond of the gem of the whole plaza that was there. The buildings around it are all improved, and they look beautiful. And then now this is going to be put as the center point in that plaza. And for 32 years or longer, people in this town have been waiting for something to be done with this building. This is, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's not acceptable. It's just, there is lack of thought, lack of design into the structure. There's nothing. It's void. It looks it looks like a institution, basically, and I don't think it's appropriate for the town center. We did give samples. I wrote a bunch of notes on every single one.
Okay.
I can go through them all. I can give you the key points to each one, that what I was looking at when I had looked at these. The use of timber elements, open horizontal shading element, the horizontal siding may be able to incorporate cork spraying on the brick, which not only helps as a mildew resistant, it's actually better than paint. It lasts 20 years. It's non-VOC. There's a lot of things to it. That would be something that might be able to look at. Plus, it adds an R value of R14 to basically about a ½ inch of material. Then the second one, I was talking about the same thing with the cork spray, the mahogany or the teak, as we call it, on it, some kind of interest in the elevation. The height of the building, and where it pops up, protrudes out, something to give it a little bit of interest. I know we're looking at it like we're stuck with the box, but to just keep it, I know there's breaks in it, but those breaks are no more than 6 inches, I don't think, on the brick. And so this would have maybe a cork spray, the industrial look, turnbuckles, chains, steel rods, over the solar shades, over certain specific windows. I talked about the mahogany colored window frames, which you've already spoke about, that would maybe enhance the structure. Flat awnings, and the next one is the depth of perception on the building, different planes that you're looking at. The roof levels jump, so it creates an interest, complementing colors to the window frames, to the structure, banding elements which go throughout this structure. Could see this structure using elements previously discussed in the others with timbers, rafter tails, and that was that. The next one
Working,
is that,
not working. Oh, there we go.
oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Um,
Come on.
Stone, and I understand that the brick is existing, but stone is a nice element, especially in this town with the stone walls and some of the stone buildings that we have. And the other structures that are in that plaza have stone, not brick. Awnings not continuous, non-continuous. They break up over sections of windows where you have just one running awning of fabric. I think over time, give it 5 years, that'll be faded and torn. Black frame or complementary color frames, banding, timber, rafter tails. Let's see, the next one is the center core, allowing natural lighting into a lobby or the offices. I had discussed possibly moving the section of door. You said that the layout for the floor plan was already finalized or whatever. I disagree because anything could be worked. It just takes a little bit of ingenuity to do it. Use of different materials, timbers, exposed rafter tails. The central one is a shed roof in this case. Incorporate symmetry. Would suggest not using a bright color, though. That would be the only thing. The other one has a soothing feeling to it. Could be used with horizontal and vertical accents, which were discussed in the diagram that has the craftsman, I think, drawing early on. Dark frame around the glazing. May incorporate a timber deck, a roof, large overhangs, 24 inches or more, exposed rafter tails, solar shading elements over these windows also. This one here, stucco or cork spray, wood planking, black frame, iron and steel. Let's see, I had a little note on a thermal cork spray. Its elasticity, inhibits mold, water resistant, insulates, it's an R14 value, covers any surface, VOC free, so it's non-toxic, and comes in colors. And then the last one was opposing shed roofs, exposed rafters. They could be false rafter tails, so that because doing a roof system with like this timber frame is costly. Timbers used where appropriate, stone, brick, interest in levels and depth, pull forward and pull back, juxtapositions on the structure, and let's see, walk out on a flat roof just to create the thought that there might be a deck up on the structure. And then that was it. I have, yep, that's it. So that's what we had sent. I believe it was sent to you, none of which was taken into consideration. And so my disappointment is that there's just lack of creativity on the project.
Thank you, Rob. Ms. Walser?
Thank you. One of my questions, I just want to clarify on the landscaping, because I heard a reference to a planter, and then I see there's like 5 vines crawling up the front of the building, but then there was arborvitae conversation. Are you talking about a planting bed? Are you talking about vertical planters? Do you know?
Yes.
Cut out the sidewalk.
Yep. The sidewalk is 11 feet
Yeah.
wide, and so we're going to cut out, so there's 5 feet that's ADA.
So it's
with
an
a balance of
in-ground
1+1.
bed?
Yes,
Okay.
correct, yep.
All
And
right.
then we had proposed, I know they look like vines, but we had proposed arborvitae, but we're certainly open because it broke up the massing of the
Yeah,
side.
yeah, I'd seen different counts and
Iterations,
wording,
yes,
so
yes.
I want to just be clear on that. I want to thank both of my colleagues for their efforts in coming up with suggestions on the architecture. They both have serious design background. I respect what they say, and I always love to hear what they say. I mean, we all have different expertise, and that helps us come to conclusions. That being said, I think I mentioned 2 weeks ago that I didn't have much of a problem with it as designed. But I would really appreciate it if you could at least, I come from a development and finance background, so I appreciate cost issues involved. But I do agree with them that we shouldn't just set a low bar, anything is better than what we have. And I would appreciate if you could give some consideration to some of the elements they mentioned, whether it's the awnings or, it's just some of the elements that might be more cost possible.
Thank you.
Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Dexter?
So good to be back here. And I also would like to just congratulate and thank my colleagues because, again, they can illustrate and express themselves with ideas. And I think that's all they're looking at. And I agree with Stephanie. I'm happy to see it cleaned up and get that horrible blue roof off of it. But all that being said, the one thing that I'm thinking of is I do like some of the very subtle elements, and it's very hard to take a big box and make it be anything other than a big box. Two things bother me. One of the windows. They did that. There was an old A&P out in near Raymond Avenue as you're going out, like 55, that got transferred into, I don't know, Department of Health or something. They did, and that's kind of what they did. And it was like, if you're going to put new windows in, maybe you could put in windows that are not so, that is seriously institutional. So if you are going to replace them, maybe you could find something that picks up maybe more wood or, and instead of having an aluminum front to it, maybe it could have a dark front or something so that that just looks to me like what they did to the A&P, and I'm going back like 40 years, so all that being said. And then my other thought was, if you're going to be planting and you are going to be removing some of that sidewalk, could you incorporate a bit of a stone bed around it that picks up the elements from the other buildings that you've just dressed up with some stone? So nothing big, nothing expensive, but maybe a true planter of sorts. Wouldn't even have to be that tall, but that would definitely break that up a little bit more. I don't know.
Good idea. Yep. Okay.
Then my other question, and again, I know this is new zoning, so apologies. Are there houses like right behind, are we screened between this and, are there any residences like right behind? You know how we have to,
Daycare center,
you know how we have to screen?
Actually, I live there. It's not a daycare center anymore.
So anyway, we haven't talked about that here, but all the other things that have come through, especially over on the far south, we've had to screen because there are neighbors there. So we might need to take a look at that.
This
I don't know
building
if-
is actually almost on the property
On the
line.
property
Yeah,
line,
so
yeah.
as far as if there was any, I was surprised when I went back there.
It's like this.
It's about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there isn't much. I can go back to the survey and show you, but there's zero room. And there's actually pretty dense vegetation, but there's nothing back there that we could do to plant.
On that property, and we can't, I know we can't ask for off-site improvements. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Mr. Oliver?
So I would first off like to thank you for looking at that depth of the sidewalk and figuring out a way to bring some greenery to the front of the building and kind of break up that large expanse that we were talking about. You know, I mentioned it last meeting and you know, I'll kind of cement that again this meeting. I kind of like the simplicity of it. You know, I liked what you did. I can't remember the color scheme from the Zoom meeting for some reason, but the brown is kind of like throwing me off. What color, it was another gray?
It was the exact same color as the
Oh, there
paint
was no
on the
difference.
brick was the same color as the Hardy. So it was symmetrical. It was all the way across. It was the same color.
'Cause I don't know, the brown's kind of just throwing my eye off a little bit, but now that it's there, if you used it to kind of outline your, like frame the building, you know, the name. your sign. It
Yep,
might be a
yep,
nice.
box it out.
Yeah, maybe even give it some relief. It might be a simple way to
Okay.
add some of the elements, and then, to kind of piggyback off of what my colleague said. One thing that I would not be opposed to is maybe breaking up the awning, if you can, to give us a little bit of
Yep.
height. But other than that, I'm happy to see the improvement and excited to see new business in the town, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Garcia?
Hi, I'm the new person, so basically, I come from finance and general construction background, and I can sympathize with the cost of presenting various different types of textures, different types of awnings. When you look at this building, I mean, you've got a clean lines, very contemporary, very simple. I mean, that's fine. It's kind of a little off for Hyde Park, because when you look around, you see peaks and different types of buildings that look more colonial and more fits New England type look. But I'm not opposed to it. You can do certain things to make it look a little better or appease, like your awning. I'm not a fan of cloth awnings. Okay, they deteriorate fast in the weather, etc. And maybe you can break that awning up over each window like the gentleman suggested. Maybe use a different material, maybe even go a little bit more contemporary or industrial and use those flat roofs coming out over the windows with some steel. That might be a cheaper way of dealing with it. I'm not sure what you could do as far as giving peaks to this building. You could build a false front, but that's gonna cost a lot of money. And, it's probably not doable.
Agree.
I mean, anything is doable, it's just, okay, we could probably put a price tag on it, but it's gonna cost.
Right.
And then eventually, if it costs too much, it doesn't get done,
Correct.
and the project walks.
Time and money.
Time and money, that's what it is. And, so, I mean, I like the clean lines of the building. I think you can do some reverse directional lighting on the building. Maybe put some dental, columns on it to give it depth. So you would run like 2x teak up the building and then build depth from that. Maybe give it an architectural depthness to it. But, I'm excited for it, and I think, I think it's gonna be a great tenant for the town. I think it'll bring business to the town, and people that make real wages. So that's mine.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Before I conclude with my comments, let me go ahead and open it up to public comment, if you don't mind. Kelly, can you share the table?
Yes.
And just come up, when you come up, just make sure you say your name and where you live for the record. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is James McQuaid. I live at 14 Pinewood Road. I am the house directly behind the building. My major concerns, my family and I, are basically like the pollution, the noise pollution, the mold pollution that's going to be coming from that building, possible asbestos pollution. We have a pool back there. We have a nice backyard, and I just worry about it being covered in dust, dirt, whatever else is going to be coming from that old building that's been abandoned for a long time. Pretty much that's all I have to say. Just want to make those points. I see everything seems to be cosmetic with the building, which I definitely agree, because we do live in Hyde Park and it's supposed to be prestige and everything like that. But my major concerns are more on the inside of the building, as far as soon as they take the roof off, if a wall comes down and there's black mold everywhere, and all of that is going to be blown into my property. And I'm just talking about a screen behind the building. Yeah, it's tight back there, but you could definitely have something to prevent items and things flowing over into my property. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McQuaid. Are you from Hyde Park, or did you just buy here?
No, I grew up in Hyde Park.
There you go. Glad to have you stay. Thank you.
May I ask, Ms. Leibert, are you painting the back of the building black as well?
I don't think so. I think it's the three sides.
Would anyone else like to speak about this application? All you have to do is come up. I promise we're friendly. Just please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Hi, Kathy Reagan.
I thought it was you, Kathy. It's your hair's longer.
Yes, COVID.
Everybody, okay. It's good to see you again.
At 24 Van Dam Road. 24 Van Dam Road. I can understand the concerns of this gentleman being right in back, and if there is not much buffer in between. Now that we've gone to town center core, those of us who bought 3 million years ago, like we did, had a 25-foot landscaping buffer, which is no more. So one would hope that if you are not honoring that former tradition, then you would be doing something aesthetically pleasing, especially for the gentleman right behind. And, you know, as that grows, our antenna will be going up because it will be extending, I assume, into the development of in behind McDonald's and that general area. And we already have quite a few blank spots in that area, although I am thrilled with the improvements made to that mall. I'm very pleased with that.
Thank you for saying that. And by the way, Kathy, the area that you're talking about that's kind of empty and sparse, that's where the McDonald's septic is, and they can't put a building on top of it. Kelly would know this too.
Yeah.
So.
At this current time.
At this current time. Lacking commercial sewer. So thank you for those comments. Ms. Raganetti, anyone else like to comment? No one else? Okay, so I think, Kelly, what we should do is see if there is a way to add screening. Ann was correct. I don't know why we hadn't thought about that. There is natural vegetation. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, boy.
Kelly needs help.
Let me see. Okay. Yep.
No, there she goes. Type on the back.
Whoa.
Oh.
We see the same thing up here.
Oh, okay, you can see it, sorry. So, in that back area, I mean, I would encourage the board to walk back there. It is heavily vegetated in that back area, and there's no work that's being done in the back of this building. There's no improvements that are being done in the back of this building. So I would just encourage the board to look at that and see.
There's really no room, but I don't believe that there will be any walls coming down.
Correct. There's no walls and there's no roof coming off.
And there should also, to allay some of Mr. McQuaid's fears, there also shouldn't be a lot of dust and dirt floating over because it's all being contained on the inside.
Correct. And I'm happy to sit with him offline. I can just connect with him, but all of the work is being done inside. And the roof is not coming off. There's a new roof that's being put on top of the existing roof.
And that's being done right now because that's
We have a building
repair
permit.
Right.
Mhm.
And by the way, Mr. McQuaid, Kelly grew up here too, by the way.
Yes. Yep.
in Hyde Park. That's the noise attenuation. This is actually a very quiet tenant.
It is. There's
I happen to know.
5 to 6 employees.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And the training will all be done inside as well.
Correct.
In other words, this should produce less noise than a grocery store did.
Correct.
Et cetera. So, and to Ms. Raganetti's comment, just to point out that when this was actually built, the zoning did not require the 25-foot landscape
Setback.
buffer.
Mhm.
There you are. Sorry, you moved. Yes. So the way the code changed is now the screening that's required is up to the planning board to determine the specific degree of opacity, I believe is how the code puts it. But in this case, there's not really much they can do. There's almost no room back there, like literally no room. And I don't think that without access, anything's going to thrive back there either unless you sort of take care of it, because that's what's back there now is a mix of natives. But that is a good point. At any rate, so let me go back to my comments, sorry. First, there's been a lot of discussion about the architecture. I think if you can give it one more glance, I am such not a builder or architect. I didn't actually understand what you were saying, Joanne, about adding teak elements. Did you mean like adding like a timber
Well, in some of
element?
our commercial buildings that I was involved in building, we would take, run these things vertically on the building. These, it could be teak, it could be pine that's painted, or some sort of hardwood. And then we would layer the wood and build actually a piece of trim. And it would run vertical up the side of the building and give some sort of depth to the building. It would break the wall up and give it depth.
Okay.
With like some sort of moldings. You'd layer the moldings. Or you could probably buy precast moldings. And when you look at the wall, you would see depth. It's just a certain look. Then you could throw in, I would say, I know you mentioned lighting in the flower beds. You could also put, instead of doing that, you could put lighting on the wall and have.
That we
Lighting is on the
have.
wall.
I thought it was on the.
It is on the wall. It comes down.
Yeah.
Is it
flashes
just going down?
Yeah.
Correct, because they have
Would
to
it
be the,
Is it against?
Yes.
Not being naive, is it
Yes.
against the fact that they could have
Yes.
uplighting?
so there's 5 downlights.
All
that
lights are required to
will
be
hit the
dark sky
sign
compliance calls,
and
so
then hit the
they can't
landscaping.
cast light up. When it has, the foot candles have to go to 0 along the property line.
Okay, all right. So you could also do the same thing like with your cap, where you were talking about the dental cap. We used to make the caps for the flat roofs, and sometimes we'd make them out of metal and have them come down the face of the wall and build some sort of ornate work across that cap. I know it's extra, it's
I'd
but
rather
it's-
focus more on the landscaping and the lighting. That would be my
You know.
personal opinion, is to try to add that to the building. Look at the awnings, look at the windows.
Okay. I'm just, there's certain elements you can do which don't cost a lot. I think if you start getting into multi-layered roofs and things like that, it's gonna be very costly.
We do, after the board, if everyone recalls at the last meeting, we did apply to the building department for a roof permit because we are under, unfortunately, a
Time
time
constraints.
constraint. So we do have an active building permit that until this board approves the project, we're waiting until the approval, and we're going to proceed with the roof repair.
So my first comment is, on the plans, it's called out that the vintage wood panels, Nichiha, I think is the manufacturer, or Nikiha, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
They make cement for.
Yeah, the cement board that's lighter colored, or it's what's been referred to as teak. When I went onto their website, they don't have a teak, it's cedar, and I think that's this is cedar.
Okay.
So one thing that occurred to me that I don't think would be too expensive would be perhaps to do a wash of low lighting, where to accentuate at night that color, to make it pop more. That's just a thought of mine again.
So
I'm
up
not,
high pointing down?
or even just like a glow, like,
With the bar lights.
yes,
right?
the bar lights that
Okay.
you see, to emphasize that there's a depth there, because I think it's only 4 inches, but a light might help. The garage doors at the newly enclosed loading dock on the south side, to me, should be painted the same color as for the surrounding wall. They kind of stick out, and I
They
don't think
do.
that's what you want to have there.
No, I think they should, I agree with you.
The gray color is not labeled on my plans, that dark gray, but I assume it's going to be the same one that we used on the town center to the other side.
Correct.
It's a beautiful color, I think.
Thank you.
Then we've touched on the parking and it's what's called the scale table, and the scale is not here anymore. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware that we'd be reducing the number of parking spaces, but I think we've already addressed that for how we would make sure that that doesn't get too crowded if it ever changes and through there. So, and you need to correct the parking table that has building 5 for emergency 1. It got carried down for this building. There's no lighting schedule or photometrics, but I'm assuming that this is all that's being added, or these wall packs. It's not going to affect anything too much, right? The septic size, so my one question on that, and it's sort of a question also for parking, was what happens if training sessions host more than 25? I mean, I know who's being trained there. It's mostly, not going to say, older people like me. And they probably go to the bathroom a lot, is all I'm telling you. So I've been in those training sessions, like I said. So I just want to make sure, I know that you've doubled, I think, the size of the tank, that what it could be. So let's hope that it's okay.
So I'll defer to Pete, but it's my understanding that when we design these septic systems, there's double redundancy, so there's expansion, and then there's there's
Well, yeah, I
Double
don't know what
capacity.
Jason is requiring here, because again, it's an existing site, and sometimes on these older sites, you're not able to get I don't know if maybe you're referring to the expansion area. So I'm not sure what he's requiring
Well,
here.
the tank is double the size. They only need, I think, 590 gallons per day, and it's 1,000. So I assume that can go up. But I
Well,
do want to
1,000
point out that,
Well, the tank is a minimum. I don't think they can put in less than 1,000
No.
gallons a day tank.
but this is also being vented in the parking area, so when you walk through, if there's any issues with scent, it'll be very evident. I'm assuming.
Well, I would hope that, again, I haven't seen the health department approval, but if there's a vent there, well, is that the vent?
No, he's
Well,
saying if
there's no-
there was a failure of the tank and you had a scent, yeah.
Oh.
And I mean, the reality is that this is going to be significantly less than what
It
was
should
in
be.
there when we had Grand Union.
Oh,
and
is it?
preparing food.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
Because
sure.
they were preparing food.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a significant reduction.
No, I can see that. I'm sorry, what I should have meant was, what was the size of the tank when it was Grand Union, do you know?
I don't recall. They had
'Cause
to
it
be
was used-
disconnected.
It was used way down, okay.
But the
Yeah.
tank is, but the
It's just
tank,
holding
but
the
the tank,
solids.
but the tank is vented up through, the plumbing system inside, the building. So obviously, it's going to go up
Mhm.
above the building, so.
Well, usually when you put a septic system in, you put a vent in the field, right?
I don't know.
Not
Not in
this
this
one.
case.
This one is just, this is such
Well, I can
an
tell
older
you, I have
system.
a 1,000-gallon tank at our plaza, and we have a pizzeria, and I don't have issues.
You're
Okay.
preparing food, yeah.
Preparing
But
food.
it is, the health department is reviewing it now, and I think they're
I'm
doing
not-
deep tests this week.
So in an email conversation I had with Michelle Zerfus, she asked if you could put the arborvitae 10 feet apart, and there'd be no plantings in between.
Yeah.
So that's going to look pretty stark, I just want to say. And in addition, I don't know how the arborvitae survives unless you put in some sort of irrigation system, because the roof leader will flood it out and take soil out. And that's a dark color. The sun absorbs the heat of the sun in this hot summer day, and you're facing directly west, so it's going to bake. Otherwise, I don't have any objection to the arborvitae as a plant, but I think you do need something in between. Otherwise, you're going to have litter and weeds constantly.
Everyone knows I'm a boxwood fan.
I
so
know.
I just everywhere, it's like windows.
Well, that's why I was like, shouldn't there be boxwoods or something
Yeah,
kind of
in
in
between.
between? But Michelle, and you
Have a-
may need to talk to her about
Oh,
this, she was
and
worried
we'll
about
consult with a
moisture,
landscape
moisture something or
architect.
other,
Yep.
retention?
We'll see if we can talk to someone about it.
Because that means that I violated everything with how I should treat my house, because I have plants crammed right up to the side.
Okay.
At any rate, but we should at least think about how to keep that watered. The dumpster location, we've already discussed. The snow moving equipment that's stored there now, Tad mentioned, or the snow removal equipment. The walkway, I think, is a good response. I mean, not having the walkway along that side, now I understand, because you're going to have deliveries, and I know what's being delivered there, too. You don't really need to have people walking. You should make them cross and then go back up, so that makes sense. And then I'm hoping that the riprap, the new storm drain, that's the riprap swale works. Otherwise, again, the way that Stephanie put it, I think, is most eloquently stated. Could you just, your architect, have another look-see about this? Because I don't want to keep going round and round about architecture, because it will take us forever, and we do have a limitation on the actual bones of the structure. And John, Mr. Curcio, so the way the code reads is flat roofs are not allowed in town. But for buildings this size, where it would look really, in my own opinion, it's just mine, overwhelming if you saw a big, huge peaked roof on a building this way. They're supposed to just disguise it with parapets, et cetera. And Kelly had asked me earlier how the new Sake Brewery had handled that. And if you look, they tilted theirs just like this is now tilted, and they added a protrusion around, and then they added the side out. So, yeah, the Angawa, which sounds like Tarzan to me, but it's a Japanese term, sorry. Anyway, I appreciate you said Angawa to cheetah, too. I think it meant hurry up. But at any rate, I also, like I said, I know that there's an urgency for us to conclude on this as well. So what I suggest we do is, how much do you think that you need a month in which to have someone take a look to see if there's any refinements you can make, or do you want us to just adjourn this to 2 weeks out?
2 weeks, please,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
That is fine by me. No other public comment tonight? Making a motion to adjourn this to April 20th. What?
I'm not a pug.
Oh, sorry.
Just a couple quick comments on some of the things that were said by the public or board members. One consideration with regard to the planter is soil, because I don't know what the depth is of the soil there, so, I don't know where the bedrock pops up, so if it's, only a foot of soil, we're gonna have a problem. So one consideration, if you need to go up as opposed to going down with the planter area. The
That's a
other
good
is.
point. Remember, we had to deal with that at the other
Oh,
side.
yes, remember.
Yeah, and Chris's suggestion I liked with just building up a little bit of a stone wall.
Yeah, because that might then give you the soil depths if you need it.
Right.
Opaque glass, it's not clear to me what the glass is, but dark mirror glass, reflective glass is not permitted in the town core.
This wouldn't be reflective, would it?
No, I argued with him over this, back and forth, like, they're gonna ask me about this. And he's like, well, I want to show that it's glass, so that's what.
Regular glass.
I will have.
Okay.
Use the hatch.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can see what it is.
And then just to be clear on the town core standards are part of the zoning. They're not in lieu of the
No,
zoning.
they are the zoning.
And so, there is a section that says that where there's an inconsistency, the town core standards prevail. But if screening is part of the regular overall zoning, and there's not a, requirement that you don't put screening in the town core, you can still ask for it. So I just wanted to, be clear on that as far as what the town core does and doesn't do. Thank you.
In addition, 108-5.11.2B2, how's that?
That's a lot.
Applicability. This does not apply because they're not expanding or increasing the footprint by 50%. In a later on section, maybe C2, I think. It also says that if there's any increase, the planning board can still require that those elements be in there, but there's still, again, I guess you could say there's an increase in the sense that they're adding steps, but really, that seems a thin hinge in which to try to say, let's make them match all those new standards. So, to me, that just seems, like overkill. And in addition, they're actually kind of reducing the footprint because you're getting rid of the connection to the Feeds Plus building that's in the back.
And we're taking down the gray.
You're taking down, so to me, that's all there. I didn't add, but I do think that the idea of breaking up the canopy actually does make sense to me because that would stop all those long linear lines.
I agree with that. I think that that's a good comment.
And it's just me personally, I didn't really like the changes in the planes and stuff, but that's because I grew up in the suburban South where everything that's new looks like that. And I've always thought Hyde Park, as John said, should have its own kind of look. And this is really it. But I think that if we keep if we keep refining it, I think that we get closer to it. And one of the things I want to add is Chris's idea about the stone, I guess like a knee wall or base, does
good idea.
kind of help that
Yeah,
through. And if you
it
match
does.
the stone you
And
have in
then
the
it's a sitting
building,
wall
then we
also.
pull it together
Yeah,
more.
kind of ties it to the park.
Yeah,
in the front.
so, and by the way, I do like the black aluminum around the windows.
I do too, yeah.
I think that'll be attractive, and it kind of matches the southern portion of it too. So this time I get a motion to adjourn to April 20th.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. I'll see you in 2 weeks. And
Thank
if
you
you
very
need me, I saw you called earlier, but I was in another Zoom. The
No
Zooms
worries.
don't end.
Yes.
So by the time I was able to call you back, it was 5:30. and I
No
said,
worries.
I'll just talk to you here.
Yes,
So, but
thank you.
Call me
Thank you,
anytime you
everyone.
want.
I appreciate all the
Thank you.
comments. Thank you.
I did that the first time. I did them with John.
The next item on the agenda is another new public hearing. This is for East Park Deli and Grocery.
See ya.
Mr. Milliken, welcome.
Good night.
And good night, guys. Thank you very much for driving all the way over for this. The applicants are seeking approval for an improvement to the exterior of an existing deli. This is now known as Krauser's, and we're not sure if it's going to still be named East Park Deli and Grocery, because that sounds pretty generic, but it's up to your owner, obviously, not us. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Cynthia, where did the folder go? Oh, you read, all right. Sorry. If you can see the photos, that's okay.
Are you trying to horrify us? Just teasing.
Well, for context, we need to see what's there now. So the proposal here is to really clean up the front of the building and bring the site into better conformance with the current regulations and provide a planting strip across the front, restripe the parking, provide an enclosure for the dumpster in the back, and really just make this building blend in better with its surroundings in the East Park business area. So you can see if I could expand this, might be good, but you can see the current view is pretty pitiful.
You can use the plus sign right in the toolbar on the left.
I couldn't do
The
that.
whole thing bigger. There you go. You just might have to drag it.
Anyway, trying to go sideways here.
Maybe you should control
down
this
here.
in the future.
Oh, man.
Yeah. There you go, you can drag it.
Sensitive
Good
random
job.
mouse.
Hypersensitive.
So, this is the view looking south, showing the current, what's noted on the plans as a sidewalk. And we would provide a planting area right behind there. And get rid of that clothing bin. And facing the north, toward the gas station, the plan is to replace this sign with a better looking sign.
I'll say.
It sounds like.
And these are the surrounding buildings. The gas station next to it has we would adopt some of the same colors to help it blend in with its neighbors. And the Rite Aid across the intersection has a similar palette that we would borrow from. So the plan itself includes, like I said, the restriping of the parking spaces because I think they're pretty faded right now. And also designating one of the spots as an accessible spot, which I'm not sure exists at the moment. And provide a designated spot for the snow on the southern corner of the building. Yeah, it's hard to see the cursor, but and there's been comments about these 3 spaces on the north side, and those are not really necessary. So in a future plan, we'll probably just get rid of those. And that's more or less it as far as the site goes. And the idea is to make the building, like I said, blend in better with its neighbors, with new colors and new shape on the mansard. There's a mansard roof that extends about 3 feet above the roof right now, and the plan is to get rid of that and replace it with a better looking gable and sign. As far as the name change, I asked him today whether he's made a decision. At this point, we'll just not worry about that at this point. He's had some feedback that maybe Krauser's is, has kind of a, reputation to it as a place to go, and so he may just keep it.
The worry is that if it's a new name, they will think that Krauser's no longer owns it. And I'm happy to tell you that 2 of our town employees swear by going there for their hard rolls, I believe it is, on a daily basis. So there is some truth perhaps to keeping the Krauser's name. Andrew, I want to thank you first for the audience who may be listening. This was first proposed 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago.
It feels that way.
Well, we had 2 years of COVID, and I don't think anything moved forward, so.
Well, he's anxious to do it, obviously, and I appreciate the warm reception we've been getting from the board.
Well, I want to say thank you again to your client for still investing in the community, because COVID left some people not able to do this with the increase in construction costs. And I do think, I said it before, but I think it looks a heck of a lot better than what's there right now. Which, low bar, I know,
Low bar, yeah.
but still. And I want to also say thank you to, for those who don't know, this board offers offline meetings and pre-application meetings, and so we had a lot of discussion that ultimately got us to where we are right now with the additions of the landscaping, et cetera, et cetera. So, in other words, some of our concerns were addressed way back when on this. So,
Yes.
Ms. Moss, any comments?
No.
Okay, before we start commenting, may I get a motion to, I think we opened this public
We need to
hearing, did
open
we?
the public
Making a motion of the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
The vice chairs are working tonight.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. So let me start to my right. Mr. Gercio, do you have any additional comments tonight?
No, the only comment I have is, again, is just to make sure that,
You need to speak into the microphone,
sorry. sorry, being a newbie.
I'm the
She's the,
microphone.
yeah, microphone.
Probably actually pull that a little closer,
Welcome back.
John.
John, if you look, there's a mark here on the table, where it should be bronze.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. The only concern I have is to make sure that that drainage catch basin in the center of the parking lot works, basically. That's it.
He's told me in the years he's owned the building, he's never had like a flooding type of situation.
All right. I just remember that it used to flood. But in a heavy rain, it would become a lake. But maybe it's been fixed, but,
And
I
you
mean, that
made
would
that
be a
comment last
maintenance
time.
issue.
you know.
He
I'm
made that
sure if
comment
he-
last time, so some of you should check.
Yeah, I'm sure it's, he doesn't have any interest in having the site flood, so.
No, I don't think the water's ever gone into the building, but I just know it fills out probably, it used to fill like 2/3 of the parking lot.
Well, it's in a
This is
neat-
going back years.
It's in a floodplain elevation, right?
It was on the south side of it, right?
Yeah.
Like go right up against the curbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. But I think that's a long time ago.
He might have addressed it, or somebody might have addressed it. Was he always the owner? Was he?
I don't know how long he's owned the building, the current owner. Well, it's actually a couple own it, but
They might have fixed it.
he might have done some work there, I'm not sure.
It's only in extreme weather, where you get a lot of rain.
Well, we have 2 town employees that can check it out on a rainy day.
Touche.
Good job.
Thank you, John. Mr. Oliver?
Just want to thank the applicant for investing in our town, and I look forward to the improvements. I think that's one of the last buildings in that area that waiting an improvement, and I think it'll be great when it's done, so thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. Dexter?
Same thing, thank you for dressing up something that woefully needed it. Those 3 parking spaces to the north, are they currently there?
There are 2 parallel spaces in that area.
Because, I mean,
And-
I
I don't think people really park.
no,
over
I don't
there.
think, I don't think they do. There always seems to be, like, just as you're pulling in, somebody's pulling out, and you can always find a spot. So I don't think you're gonna miss anything if you lose those.
No, he's
3.
ready
Yeah.
to give up.
And I hate to say this, but as much as I really like this, to me, it blends in too much. It's almost like the exact same color as the 2 other buildings. And if you wanted to go just a little bit different, I would totally applaud that.
I understand.
Banish the beige.
How about dark gray?
Remember when things were too Barney?
I remember, and
Now they're too beige.
Anna's been up here with
We
me
had
for
a
17
beige
years, so.
While, and then we went Barney, and then we're
Yep.
back to.
Yes, and led the Banish the Beige charge back then. Would you accept like a darker tan, or do you want it to be?
I would love it to complement the sign,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is. So, I just something a
Gray.
little bit different so
Gray?
that.
Gray,
So
the red.
Gray, yeah, gray
The
would do
red
it
sign would
nicely.
pop off of gray,
Oh, yeah.
like unbelievable.
I'll bring that
You
up.
talk to your owner, the
Yeah.
owner,
Yeah,
Dark gray.
like the color we
Yeah, the
just saw.
industrial gray,
That-
yeah.
That dark gray.
and right across the
Charcoal.
street from you is a gray, they just reclad that building, and it's
I
kind of a
see.
gray-blue,
That's true, that's right.
so, but
But they're not
otherwise,
long.
very happy to see this going forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Wasser?
Missed that.
Chris is quoting people like me now.
Oh.
He's been sitting down there too long.
I also want to thank you and your client for investing in renovating this building, which, yes, it needs it, but not everyone's able to invest in it, so I'm happy to see it. There was a memo that came out from Dutchess County Planning. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it.
Yes, I saw that.
And this, as designed, that sign may be in conflict with the code in terms of being on a false gable. So, and I'm not loving that. No, she's wrong. She's wrong. Love it.
Her
Okay.
point is that it breaks up the roof line, which is conceivable, but the gable end wall, we allow signs on them.
End wall. That's the front wall.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm calling it a gable end because it's the end of that.
Right, I'm talking about the
gable
front sign.
And
No, no, no,
in fact, the code encourages, peaked roofs.
Okay, so I just saw this today, it just came out today, and I wanted to make
Right.
sure you had seen it
Yeah, I'd
and that
seen
we touched on it.
She was interpreting above the roof line to be above the existing roof line, and,
Okay.
her concern was they're creating a new roof line.
Okay, thank you. And I do think that that red sign would look better on almost any other color than that one.
Noted.
I guess you don't like blondes and red.
I don't like that sign. And
Okay.
It's not working. with it.
Okay, so we're hearing changing the color more. Thank you. Mr. Waters?
I'm in agreement with that, and, I mean, like I said, thank you for doing this. I mean, it's a vast
Yeah.
improvement to what's there, so, and it does have creativity in the things that you did to change that small little, it's a smaller structure, and it looks great. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Ms. Weiser?
I have nothing else to add. We're really thrilled, though, that you and the owners have taken this on. It's something that we've needed for a long time.
Yeah.
I think the gray would be a very handsome and elegant color, so.
We'll investigate that one. Thanks.
Okay.
That makes 4 that prefer the
I
gray,
understand.
just
Here,
in keeping tabs, in case you're looking at votes.
If you're going to go gray, there are warm grays and cool grays, and with the red sign, I would think you would want to stay with a warm gray.
Mhm.
French gray, they call it.
Is that what they call it? Thank you.
I'm all for that, I'm all for that.
Can I make a comment, Chairman?
Please.
You talked a little bit about the sign, and I just want to remind you that if you stick with the sign and then you later change it, you have to come back in for a permit.
We were aware of that,
So it
yeah.
behooves him to finalize it before the next meeting.
And I had told him that they would save 150 if they did it this
Right,
way.
it'd save money,
So,
time.
but he's aware.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So-
keep asking him every time I talk to him.
Thank you. Mr. Milliken, if someone comes up to speak, can you move over so they can speak into the microphone? Would anyone from the public like to speak about this application? Anyone like to speak? Okay, there being none, my only comment was what you already said, that we should bank the 3 parking spaces facing north. We brought that up. Actually, Stephanie brought that up at the last meeting, and DC Planning concurred, even though it's a matter of local concern, and you said the owner is already ready to give. But you really don't want people backing up if someone else is backing up that way. It causes conflict points. Otherwise, my colleagues covered everything. I think this is still a vast improvement to the site overall, and I'm neutral on color, so whatever gray you choose, I'm willing to concede to my colleagues.
Whatever gray you choose.
I'm willing to concede
Not
to...
lost on us.
Well, no, it's just, I heard four people saying they wanted a gray as opposed to the beige, so, and while I understand that you could say you're making a visual echo along the way, I think that the concern from the board is that
It will
there's
still
too much
complement
beige.
the other buildings.
Yeah, no, I'm not, and I think it does look better with the red, honestly, to have a darker color, I'm being honest with you. So, Mr. Milliken, would you like us to adjourn this for 2 weeks out or for a month to give you time to clean up?
2 weeks is plenty.
Making a motion to adjourn this to April 20th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Very
Aye.
good.
Thank you.
Onward.
It's a little punchy in here from not meeting in so long, but that was good. So, thank you, Mr. Milliken. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
The client before, that was,
The next item on the agenda, goodness, these new agendas they were easier on the computer,
yeah.
is MALCARNE Showroom. The applicant is seeking approval to do another exterior modification. Did I get that correctly? Am I in the right order? I thought so.
Did something wrong.
Thank you.
Smoke Carney,
Um,
yep.
And this is another one that Ms. Sedaris here has been talking to Tad and me for a long time about it. And they're finally ready to move forward.
I have to do the math? Okay. I'll do the math. Can't read it from there?
As the public will have the opportunity to see, they're adding a new roof onto an addition that was put on, I don't know how long ago, to the red brick building. This is the old row building for many people who live here for a while. And Nivian, let me turn it over to you. Welcome, good to see you again.
Hi, how are you? The building exists as it is. We're not changing anything outside of the footprint of the building. It remained, unoccupied because the doctor that was there pulled out, and no doctors have private offices anymore. So they joined, these things, and all of a sudden, he came and gutted everything, took his cabinets and left. We're like, okay. And now we were looking for a place to do a showroom, and we figured why look too far? I mean, we can do this, and in the interim, we thought we could improve the look of the building because it has one of the flat roofs that doesn't do anything, and it looks very odd. So we decided to add a gabled roof on it and enhance the colors of the facade. I have given a sample of the materials we're going to use to echo the existing building, the brick building that's, was original to the area. And we wanted to improve the look by doing that and improve the function. Now you know why I should play with the mouse.
I'm on the elevation, but I can't read.
Yeah, it's
from over there.
I'm thinking it's not just me. I thought I needed long-distance reading glasses too, because I can't, it's a blur over there.
Yeah, readers,
There's no
you
glass
can't
you
see.
could wear that would
Try to get all the way to the end.
Yeah, it's just too, no, it's not you, it's just too small.
I can't even read my laptop.
That's the last page.
Everything is gray now.
That's like,
Yeah.
And that's the top-down look at the very interesting roof that's being added. There you go.
No, he wanted the look of the roof.
No, we've seen, that's the top-down version, but you can
Yeah.
see the front-on version of
Right.
what's up there right now.
Yeah. So we're just proposing, it's going to be an open space, and we're going to show a few things there, and it's going to be by appointment only, so it's not going to be like people coming in droves. Nobody goes anywhere in droves anymore.
no.
And,
No.
no.
I go to the computer.
And we thought maybe we could use the upstairs or something, but when I spoke to Don Westermeyer, he said, no, this is going to kick you into another something or other. I said, don't worry about it. I don't have to.
It's smart that you spoke to him in advance, that means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to get this going. I didn't think it was going to be a process, but it is a process, and I'm very happy to see you all again. So anyway, so we wanted to improve the exterior of the building and give it a function so that it doesn't remain vacant, and it would help us because we were looking for a space for what we need. And instead of looking outwards, I mean, we are right there, so we could just utilize the space and enhance the look of it to make it work well with the building, with the original building that is gabled, and the additional building that's in the back that is gabled too. I don't know why they came to this one and decided to make it flat, but
Maybe the planning board back then didn't care.
It was the 60s.
I have no idea why they did what they did, but
Nobody was
it gave me an
conscious.
opportunity to make it,
Mid-century
I hope.
modern, flat roofs.
All right, if you say so.
Nevian, in addition, you're making a change in the rear with some doors, or I
Yes,
believe?
yes, we wanted to take, you see the windows that repeat in the
Yes.
suites? I just put them together, and I thought maybe this is a good placement for a door, so that we can, since I can't use the upstairs, we can get that space to house what we need and not bother anybody. And all the suites have been vacant for a while. We have one dentist and another, office space next to it, and there is nobody else in the building, so it really would be a shame to go look for other spaces when we have this,
Right.
and it's vacant.
Architects don't even have small offices anymore. A lot of them are now working from home. So,
Done that, but.
by the way,
don't
I
like
did
it.
meet a doctor I did meet a doctor who's in private practice, and he makes house calls,
Oh, my goodness.
meaning he doesn't take insurance.
Really?
So there are some who still do it, but you have to, you're
Cash.
catering to a very wealthy market, apparently.
We have another one at my practice just left to go out on her own because she was tired of corporate doctoring.
See?
Yes, my
So
doctors did the same.
it's a matter of trying to find out when they leave, if you could nab them, I
Follow
guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing anymore, but anyway, the Dutchess County, who are they?
Planning
The
and
planning,
development?
yeah, they had a couple thoughts on the signs and the lights and stuff, and I have reduced the size of the lights a little bit, and I show what I'm gonna put next to the
And
door.
you change them to the proper Kelvin
Yeah.
values as well.
And she doesn't think I need another sign on the north side of the building, but it was for me, it was more that somebody's driving down and they see the sign before they get to the place, and they can't go from there. She's concerned that maybe, they will.
Distracting.
Yes, but the thing is, you can't go from one area to the other because the land north of us is higher. That was the whole purpose of moving the sign initially, because, you couldn't.
The old sign couldn't be seen as well.
Yeah,
And there are times when, I certainly agree with Heather that I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but at the same time, you're permitted to have one.
right.
And it's permitted as of right to have a wall sign, so I don't think there's any way we could deny that, unless we say it's such a bad safety issue, come on, that's not going to be the case. In addition, I want to point out that this is by appointment only, as you said, so someone may be actually looking for it, and they may be looking for a big sign along the side, so I can understand why you want it
Yeah,
there.
I thought aesthetically too, it breaks up the monotony of this huge roof, come on.
So let me start with,
I wanted to put it there and put lighting on it, same like the front, and it's not gonna be confusing because you really can't access the building from that end at all.
No, I've walked between what is now Ulster Savings Bank and your
Yeah.
site, and you have to navigate
There is a
a steep
drop,
drop.
there is a drop
Yeah, it's a
there
4-foot
that's
drop. I
about
mean,
4
it's
feet
okay
in
for one
the
person to,
areas.
but not in a car.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Ms. Moss, any comments? Ms. Polidoro, any comments?
No. Now that we've received a response back from county planning, the board is ready to take action once you're satisfied with the plan.
And the comments were a matter of local concern as well, though she did raise the issues of the signage and the red area behind the sign. So let me now start to my inner left. Ms. Wasser, any comments?
No, I don't have any additional comments to what's been mentioned, and thank you again to your client
My
for
pleasure.
making the investment. Cannot wait.
Thank you. Yes, we cannot wait either, so.
Mr. Waters?
No, it looks great. I just wouldn't like to be the guy who's cutting the rafters for that roof.
Not my problem.
It is unusual, the roof, the way the
Well, the shape of the building lend itself to what goes on
I think it's
the
cool.
roof.
I think it's great.
So I had to go with what's existing because I didn't want to change that because then it would kick us into a whole other problem.
Yep.
And I thought, how can I make this interesting? So that's how it came about. And I wanted to respond to the original roof and all the other roofs and make it,
You
know,
did a
more
good job,
viable.
I think.
So,
Ms. Weiser, comments?
I concur. It's a wonderful improvement
Thank
to
you.
that weird flat roof.
Thank
It's
you
now
so much.
congruous.
Ms. Dexter?
I agree with my colleagues, and thank you for staying in Hyde Park and improving.
thank you, man. Thank you.
Mr. Oliver?
I also agree with my colleagues, and thank you for investing in our town. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Same here.
No,
No architectural comments? Come on, take a step.
no.
No comments?
No comments.
Okay,
Thank you.
then first, let me get a motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
They beat you. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I did it. I can't believe I did that. I still think we're on Zoom, so I can see if there's
Yeah.
anybody not. Sorry about that. Yes, just all you have to do is say aye here. At any rate, would anyone like to comment about this application? Mr. Kane is an alternate member, so unless you gentlemen want to speak, then there would be none. So we had no comments. I think we're all satisfied with the plan, but we don't have a resolution tonight, so we could get a motion to close the public hearing and take action within 60 days, meaning at our next meeting. If that sounds good to you, Ms.
Yes.
Polidoro? And colleagues?
Yes,
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Oh, woo-hoo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So, Nevian, we'll see you in 2 weeks. It'll be
Okay.
concluded, and we'll give you a copy of the resolution once we have it in
All
advance.
right. But
Okay.
in the meanwhile, I can apply for the building permit, or what do I do?
I think you
Can't
can
you try
start
to get it
talking,
started?
you can start talking to Don if you have
Yeah.
the engineering plans, as they call them,
Yeah.
you know, for the building, the inside of it, et cetera.
Yes.
You can start talking to him.
All right.
If he needs to, he usually gives me a call to say, is this going to happen or not? But you can say they closed the public hearing and they all spoke favorably. Because
can't say that
we
to
did. I'll tell
It's
Don,
a-
I see him every day.
It's
a nod.
Yeah, yeah, so I'll tell him. But yes, you should start on that as soon as possible if you want to
I
pull a
just
building
want to buy
permit.
time before it.
Oh, those are the colors?
Oh, yeah, these are the samples of it.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
This you cannot do on Zoom.
See, that's the sign.
No, they don't,
That's
the
the
colors
building.
aren't good, so-
The sign
Right?
material.
gray.
See,
The roof, the
here's
sign.
Kaiser, or the
Krauser?
Krausers.
That's the color I'm
That's
thinking of, you
Yeah.
guys. for
That's
the-
beautiful.
The warm.
And that
Nice
was
colors.
coming across
Yeah.
the street.
Thank
yeah.
I like the red with the gray.
The building is red brick, and the rest of the building is faded gray and peeling gray, and I thought it's time to make it look better and, you know, blend it together a
Well,
little.
improving the exterior may also make it easier to find new tenants. Let's be honest, curb appeal goes a long way.
Yep.
After COVID,
Still
Well,
crossing
it goes
my fingers.
around. I think we're in a cycle, so right now
well,
it's.
I'm happy to hear that.
Well, yeah. Right, in gray to beige then. Yeah.
I had a
5
Zoom,
years.
I had a Zoom meeting
But-
earlier, I'm sorry, yesterday with a group out of New Jersey that's excited to do some work here with rental housing.
Oh, really?
They just finished Violet Estates on 9G, past where DCC is, if you're heading south, on the right, past Penville Road. And I have to be honest, every time I go by, I've been looking, going, wow, these are really nice, and I don't mean this really for that part of Poughkeepsie, but for this location,
Yeah.
because there's not much nice
There
around
isn't
it.
much going on.
It's pretty industrial and grim, so when you see these, it shows that there's a lot of movement in our community. So, anyway, nice to see you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Have a good
Good
night.
night. Oh, no, there's somebody
Oh,
else
that's somebody
first.
else first.
The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Cranston photovoltaic panels. May I get a motion to reopen the public hearing?
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we do not have the applicants present tonight, or their consultants, because they have nothing new to add. But I do want to let everybody know in the interim that we had the discussion last time about the retaining wall.
Yes.
And it does need an engineer's certification, but
No kidding.
in discussing this with our attorney at the agenda meeting, for us to require that kind of activity means there needs to be some nexus, some connection between what they're proposing and that wall. So what we're going to do is instead add a note that if we approve this, which I hope we will, that it does not imply any approval for the wall. Because it's not really for us to require that, because this has nothing to do really with, I mean, it provides screening for the panels, but that's all. So
How'd they get that wall approved?
I don't have an answer for you.
Don't need a permit for it.
It's just supposed to have an engineer's stamp of some sort
No,
on
but
there.
you'd think if somebody was going through, to determine whether to get a CO, somebody would notice there's a huge
But it-
wall that wasn't engineered.
But
No, the CO is only related to what the application is.
So the application is strictly for the photovoltaic array panels.
Below, and then they stack the
Yeah.
wire. It's
Because
great.
they don't see it. Okay.
So the CO is, the wall won't be part of the CO?
No, I'm just saying, you'd think if somebody was out there, for
No.
one reason, they would see something else.
Right, I mean, if the
But there's no
building
permit
inspector
needed for
finds
it,
a
so-
violation, he can always issue a violation.
But he would have no reason to go back out there right
Right.
now, because there's been no
Nobody's
building
back
permit to
down there.
close it up.
Nobody's down
But
there.
we got a clone tab. We need 10 of you.
More like
Let's settle
30.
for one more.
More like 30, to be honest with you. It's a
So-
big town.
Has someone relayed this request to the applicant to put that note on the plans?
No, but I should. Communicating with the applicants, remember, these are the people just doing the solar array, so it's not as though there's a lawyer or anybody
Right.
else to guide this, so. And it was actually Mr. Cranston, I believe, who might have caused this delay, so he's aware of, Tad's nodding. It's about the landscaping to be added on, so at any rate. So do we want to adjourn this to April 20th or May 4th? I think this is the May 4th one?
May 4th.
Yeah, that's what they said they wanted, so make a motion to adjourn this to May 4th?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now,
There you go.
Ms. Wasser is recused from this. We closed the public hearing on Ms. Wasser and her husband's, also photovoltaic panels. And we waited 7 days in which to take action because we were still meeting remotely. And under the terms of the emergency legislation that we were meeting, we still were supposed to allow people who might have only heard about it that night to speak. But we've had no public comment received since. Mr. Kane, our newer alternate, is up here tonight. I still love the fact that both our alternates are last name Kane, but they're not related, as I said before. Anybody have any comments or questions on this before I ask Mr. Kane to introduce the resolution?
No?
No.
That was fast. John, welcome. Nice to have you up here in person.
Yes, different.
Very.
Something about the bowl rules and all that
Oh,
stuff.
so since when you read this, all you have to do is read the bolded section. If you want, you can say all the whereases, you can just say a few. For the audience of one at this point, just so we know, just like say this periodically in case anyone's watching as well on television or on YouTube. The whereas is basically cover the history of the project, where it started, what's been submitted on down the line. And so we don't typically read those out because they're automatically in the record. Thank you for nodding, Victoria.
Okay, resolution granting site plan approval, whereas the applicant Stephanie and Stephen Wasser, and I meant to skip that part.
You can.
Whereas, now therefore, be it resolved that the planning board hereby waives the submission requirements of section 108-9.4 of the zoning law, as the information is not needed for the processing of this application. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby approves the site plan and authorizes a chair or his authorized designee to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions, and one payment of all fees in escrow.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? The motion carries. And John, I want to thank you for spending all your time tonight, waiting patiently just to read
I
this.
saw it on the end here and I said, okay.
Next time, Cynthia and I can sort of, we can give you a little advice as to when the time is, so. Okay, there being no other business tonight, making a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I want to thank the town board for giving us, again, these resources to televise and air these meetings.
Thank you.
And also to thank my colleagues, as always, for all your hard work in between the meetings. Good night.
Good seeing everybody.
So, Michael, I didn't get a chance to introduce